think about every person you've ever met in your life. Listeners, think about every person you've ever met in your life. The common thread that binds us is we just want to feel valued by somebody else.
You are now listening to the Highlight Reel Builder for Authors, the Going North podcast. I'm your host, certified leadership trainer with the John Maxwell team and best-selling author of the book, Stay the Course, Dominic Dom Brightman. And you're going to be getting some wonderful tips and techniques to advance yourself coming up next. Today's episode is sponsored by yours truly, Dominic Dom Brightman's wonderful book, Stay the Course, The Elite Performer's 7 Secret Keys to Sustainable Success. Grab it on ebook, audiobook, or paperback book and share it as a gift to your friends, family, heck, even no matter what season it is, for that wonderful person in your life that needs to advance their next level in their career or just needs a quick pick-me-up to get through their day and beyond to thrival level. Now let's get on with the show. And today on the Highlight Reel Builder for Authors, known as GMP, the Great, Glorious, and Glamorous, is the Going North podcast. And we got another super special, awesome human for you today, my friends, because today's guest in particular, he's the CMO, y'all. That's right, the Chief Medical Officer of Riverside Community Care, headquartered in the wonderful area of Dedham, Massachusetts. And to make it even better, not butter, he's been a lecturer of psychiatry at Harvard Medical School. You heard that right, folks, the Big H, as well as an adjunct faculty of Boston Children's Hospital, as well as a triple board certified in adult psychiatry, child psychiatry, and adolescent psychiatry, as well as a diplomat of the American Board of Addiction Medicine. So let's give it up for Mr. JS himself, or should I say Dr. JS, the joyful and stupendous. Let's give it up for the one and only Dr. Joseph Shrand. How you doing today, Dr. Joe?
Brightman, that is a wonderful introduction. Thank you so much. I am certainly joyous just to be here. Thank you. Or maybe it's joyous. What do you think?
There we go.
We've started. We've started.
The joyous, baby. It's the joy without the Y, but it's still joyful. Oh my goodness.
And then there's that awkward silence. Isn't it that wonderful awkward silence? Like, okay, it's a great joke. Now, Dom, where do we go? I'm listening.
Remember, don't worry. It all leads north.
It all leads north. Love it. Love it. Let's head up there.
That's right, indeed. Speaking of north, my man's all the way out in the mighty state of Massachusetts, where all the mass is there indeed. Let me stop.
Good.
More jokes, right?
That's good. I like it.
But yes, indeed. But what led you to get into psychiatry of all the fields?
I had several choices. My mother told me, she said, you can be whatever you want as long as it's a doctor. So, but for me, I did a lot of theater early on in my younger days. So I was on a television show called Zoom, which was the national PBS show out of WGH in Boston. Had my own theater company for a little bit, did a lot of writing. But I also got really interested when I was in college in this new field called sociobiology. What the heck is that? It was looking at behavior as an adaptive function. So why do people do what they do? So I had this theater part, and then I was working as a writer for CARE, the International Aid and Development Organization in New York. And I was a grant writer, got them a good grant from Belize, from Rotary International, to go down to Belize, and we did this wonderful project called REAP, Rural Education Agricultural Program, helping kids improve their nutrition, but also their whole village by teaching them how to grow crops, which meant they were learning math and science and how to market things and nutrition. And I realized that I was helping these people. I was sort of doing medicine, but wholesale. with people that I was never really going to interact with. And so I figured I wanted to do retail. So I had already done my undergrad and I had to do all of my pre-med stuff. So I went to Columbia University, did my pre-med, including physics. You still awake?
Of
Whenever I say
course.
physics, well, whenever I say physics, people immediately fall asleep. It's like, oh, physics. Um, but when I took physics, I learned about this equation about electricity. And in physics, the symbol capital I stands for potential current. And I thought at the time, well, what if we flip it upside down and we call it a current potential? What if we look at everyone at a maximum current potential, doing the best they can at this moment in time, but with the potential to change in the very next second? Because if you really think about it, we are these adaptive organisms. We are always trying to survive. So it just wouldn't make sense that we would do things less than the best we could at that time. Doesn't mean it's going to work, but it still is doing the best we can. That was 1982. That's how old I am. And this is a very long answer to your question, because at that point, I didn't know that I wanted to do psychiatry. I just knew I wanted to do medicine. My dad was a pediatrician. I'd done a lot of pediatrics. And again, you and I spoke off air about this, but I'm just going to say to the audience, the only mistake Dom has made tonight is asking a psychiatrist to talk. Because we usually listen, so when we do talk, we don't stop talking. But when I then did my pre-med, I did medical school, and I did pediatrics, but then I did psychiatry, and then I did child psychiatry. You do these rotations, and I just knew this is where I belong. This is where I belong. I'd had stuff go on when I was a kid. My parents got divorced. I saw a lot of anger and a lot of pain. And I knew that psychiatry was a place where you could really make a difference, because there was something there that I had an intuition about. And years later, I realized that intuition is the precursor to technique. And that's something we all have. We have intuitions, but when you understand why, then you can make it a technique. So that is part of why I went into it, because I think that human beings are amazing, that we are not broken, and yet we have spent so much time trying to fix ourselves. Or these self-help books, huge genre, great respect for it. But the implication is you need help. You're broken. There's something wrong. Now, let's look again at that. I don't believe it. I think we're doing the best we can. It's your I am. This is who I am. This is me, and I matter.
Boom. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. That's right. The good doc is dropping gems already. Oh, that's right. The wonderful power of intuition, the precursor to technique. And my goodness, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I felt like that was a huge theme, especially for the first half of your newest book, Unleashing the Power of Respect, with the wonderful stories that you shared. And the one that sticks out to me the most, I forgot the patient's protected name, since I'm pretty sure you use different names, of course, is the fact that you basically had all the schooling and had these two wonderful rules, but in the moment where it's like, oh crap, she has a gun, let me make sure she's okay here.
Yeah. Yeah. Lady with a gun. Powerful, powerful moment where a woman who didn't think that she mattered, didn't think she had value, told me over the phone that she wasn't going to come to her session the next morning. We'd been meeting for 2 years, every Wednesday morning. She never missed a visit. And this was a woman who was in and out of psych hospitals, was self-harming, was depressed, had a daughter who she didn't think she loved. That was the first thing she said to me. I don't think I love her. This woman was not meant to be my patient. The daughter was meant to be my patient. But this woman was someone who just, she was ready for something. But anyway, so she calls me up as you read in the story, and she says, I've got a gun. This is a moment in my career where things could have gone really bad, really, really bad. I was a young psychiatrist at the time. I was really just a couple of years out of my own residency and fellowship. And I said to her, that's too quick. You change the rules. I have a saying, I can live with it if you can. If you're hurting yourself, if you feel depressed, feel suicidal, I can live with it if you can. If you can't live with it, then we need to do something different. So I said to her, I'm going to call you back in 20 minutes. If you don't answer the phone, I'm going to call the police. The longest 20 minutes of my life. But she answered the phone. And after that, the whole story began to come out about what had really happened to her when she was a kid and the trauma that she'd experienced and how she had seen herself with no value. And this, remember, I'd already created the I am, right? I'd already had that intuition, and here it was being played out, because what had happened was I had respected this woman. I had valued her, and that led her to trust me. She had had many, many other doctors who would have put the phone down or kept on the phone. The door would have knocked in her apartment. The police would have come in and taken her out. I didn't do that. And that is the power of respect. Because respect leads to value, which everyone wants. Think about every person you've ever met in your life. Listeners, think about every person you've ever met in your life. The common thread that binds us is we just want to feel valued by somebody else. Think about that. And we have spent millennia increasing our value by decreasing somebody else's. And then we're astonished that they do the same to us. And this is why we have the conflict we have. This is why you have the separations we have, the divisions we have, the wars we have, the groups we have, the tribes we have. We are one tribe. It's called humanity. We all want the same thing, to be valued. And what the I am is saying, at every and any moment in time, you can remind someone of their value. And whenever you remind someone of their value, you increase your own value. And that's what leads to trust. So even if we don't agree with someone's position, we want to know their perspective. It is much more important to be reflective than reflexive. It is much more rewarding to wonder than to worry. But you're not going to have those conversations if someone doesn't trust you. And this woman did not kill herself because she felt valued. And then she began to realize how valuable she really was. She began to see that in herself. That's not always easy for people to do. We spent a lot of time in our lives criticizing ourselves, saying we're not good enough. We should have done better. Why didn't we do this? What's wrong with us? Why am I broken? But even that is your I am. Even that is the best you can do at that moment. But now you can wonder about it. Why do I feel that? That's unleashing the power of respect, the I am approach.
Oh yeah, that's right indeed, the I am approach indeed. So my goodness, like what led to really just deciding to finally make this the latest book to add to the wonderful arsenal? Because I feel like this is something that's so needed nowadays, especially in the era that we're in with the wars on top of everything else going on that seems to keep piling up.
Yeah. I had actually written this book before any of the others. I wrote it almost 10 plus years ago. Once I wrote this book, I didn't know what to do with it. I had no idea. So you write a book, what do you do? So I went to a conference at Harvard run by Julie Silver, and it was a writers conference about how to publish, at that point, self-help books. And I told her this whole idea of respect and unleashing the power of respect. And I said to her, when is the last time you got angry at someone who was treating you with respect? I mean, audience, think about that for a moment. When is the last time you got angry at someone who was treating you with respect? I ask this question to people and they tell me all these stories. And then I say, yeah, but that didn't feel respectful, did it? No. What about when you felt respected? Anger is an emotion designed to change things. It is the fight branch of fight, flight, freeze. So the next day, I got an email from Harvard, from these writing class, and they said, respect is lovely, but it's not sexy. Anger is sexy. Why don't you write a book about outsmarting anger? And we can talk about the whole idea of respect. So I said, okay, I'll do that. So I started to write a whole nother book. And I was in the middle of writing that book, and they emailed me and they said, listen, we want you to stop writing that book. We want you to start writing a book on stress. I said, are you kidding? Okay, so is this a joke? All right. So I shifted gears and pivoted, and I wrote my first book, which was Manage Your Stress. And I then wrote Outsmarting Anger. And that led to the fear reflex. So I'd written a book on stress and anger and fear, at which point my wife said, are you trying to tell me something? But and then I wrote the fourth book called Do You Really Get Me? And I introduced the I am approach in the fear reflex and then expanded it in Do You Really Get Me? And then that was when I knew Unleashing was ready. I had already been in the field now for 30 plus years. I mean, all of my programs are I am based. And remember, just to back up for a moment, what is the I am? We're always doing the best we can in response to 4 domains. Our home domain, no one's going to argue your home has had an influence on who you are. The social domain, which is the rest of the world. And you can appreciate that even on a daily basis, stuff that happens at home can affect the choices you make in the social domain, and stuff that happens in the social domain can affect the things at home. Those 2 domains are outside, the home and the social. And then the 2 internal domains, your biological domain of your brain and body. Are you hungry? Are you tired? Are you digesting lunch? And then what I call the I see domain, your current concept of yourself. How do I see myself? But how do I think other people see me? Human beings are very interested in what other people think or feel. We call that empathy. We all want to feel valued. But what we really want to know is, what are you thinking about me? These domains interact. This is what I thought of in 1982, that the I am was influenced, that I am influenced by these 4 domains. It doesn't mean I have to like my I am. It doesn't mean that I condone my I am. It doesn't mean that it's a free ride. Just because it's the best you can do doesn't mean you're not going to be held responsible. And it doesn't even mean you're going to win and be successful. And for some people, success is when you love going to work and love going home. For some people, success is having food in the refrigerator. For some people, success is having a home to have a refrigerator. Some people, success is just waking up and being able to get through the day. But instead of judging ourselves and other people as less than and broken, not doing as well as they can, should be doing better. Why are you voting for that person? Why are you doing this? Let's look again at why we do what we do based on the influence of the 4 domains. And when you think about the words, look again, reverse them, again, look, again, to repeat something. look like a spectator. The I am is saying, let's respect why people do what they do based on the influence of their 4 domains. And when is the last time you got angry at someone treating you with respect? So I put this book out now because I worry. Our brains are still evolving. And there's a part of our brain, this ancient part of our brain called the limbic system, the reptilian brain. It's irrational. It's responsible for emotions, for impulses, for feelings, for pleasure, for memory. Happens to be where addictions start. The limbic system. But human beings have evolved a new part of the brain right behind your forehead. So folks, if you're listening and you're not driving and you put your hand on your forehead, right behind there is your prefrontal cortex. A fancy way of saying the front part of your brain. It's responsible for rational thought, for solving problems, executing a plan, and anticipating what will happen next. How many times have you done something limbically, impulsively, and slapped your forehead as if you're trying to jumpstart your prefrontal cortex? Oh. So, why have I published this now? Because if we keep doing what we do, if we keep having this conflict, if we keep creating anger, because remember, it's mistrust. We mistrust somebody else. That makes them feel devalued. And that's because they feel disrespected. If we keep doing this, we will destroy ourselves. That's what we can anticipate will happen next. And we see it in little ways every day. And we see it in big ways every day. But if we respond to those things limbically, we are doing the same thing. The I am is saying, let's step back and look again at it. I don't have to like it. I don't have to condone it. It's not a free ride, but I want to understand why you do what you do. I'm not judging you. I can disagree with you and still respect you. That's why I want it out there now. That's why I want people to be able to do this right now. You can do this right now, today, even in a small way. Because the 4 domains interact, there are 2 truths that come out. The first truth, small changes can have big effects. You don't need to change everything. You know, we hear these self-help books about, you got to make this change and that change. No, a small change can have a big effect. Think about it. Today, you probably were out somewhere, maybe buying something, and you probably said thank you to the person. That's an effect. That's small change. Different if you walk away without saying thank you. Leads to the second truth of the I am. You control no one. You influence everyone. You get to choose the kind of influence you want to be. And everyone wants the same thing, to feel valued. And at every and any moment in time, using the I am, you can remind someone of their value. And as soon as you do that, you increase your own value. It's time, Dom. It is time for us to do this. One person makes that change. It can have a ripple effect through many, many, because they are part of someone's home and social domain. People are interested in what they think about them. That affects their biological domain, because it feels different when you feel respected and disrespected. You control no one. You influence everyone. Look what I have done. I have spoken for about 10 minutes without interruption. I'm sorry.
Hey, I just feel like one of those little understudies with the orange robe learning from a sage. I'm all good here. I'm sure the listeners are all good too, because my man's been dropping some good gems, and it's so powerful. And looking back at the time, I guess overcoming stress. It's kind of comedic when you look back at it that way. 'Cause it's like, all right, so respect. Yeah, we're gonna disrespect you. Yeah, so
Right,
write a book about anger. Yeah, write that
right,
anger.
right,
He doesn't seem to be angry enough. Let's write about stress.
right, exactly, right. Outsmarting Anger, Outsmarting Anger, 7 Steps for Diffusing Our Most Dangerous Emotion. We actually just republished it in paperback because it had come out in hardcover. The hardcover now is selling for like $200 or $300 because they're out of print. So we put it back out there, Outsmarting Anger. It actually won an award in 2013 as the best psychology book of 2013 for Books for Better Life. I'm very honored. That's a whole nother story. I'll tell you real quick this one. This is a really silly one because I get this invitation to come to this award ceremony. It's like the Emmys of books. And my wife and I, Carol, we go down there to New York, and they said to me, make sure you prepare an acceptance speech just in case. I was up against Temple Grandin, Chef. I mean, I was up against these big players. There was no way that I was going to win. And I won. And I have no speech prepared. Okay. And I get up there and I say to them, I think you've made a terrible mistake. And the audience goes, I said, look, I have a wife and 4 children. My wife was there in the audience. Carol, thank you so much for being here. I have a wife and 4 children. I am astonished that anyone is interested in anything that I have to say. But so thank you. I said, and then I started listing all these people. And I said, thank you. This one. And I said, if I've missed anyone, I apologize. But if you're angry, there is a book you can read. Yeah. It was a big surprise, man. I'm telling you. I had no thought that people would be interested in Power of Respect. And then, because the book was about when's the last time you got angry at someone treating you with respect? And that, of course, is the precursor to unleashing. So,
Amen to that. Amen to that. That's what I'm talking about, indeed. And it's so powerful, true, because when you think about it, it's like if someone truly respects you, you're not really going to get mad at them. And if you take a look on some call it a dumpster fire known as Twitter, it's like folks just want to do some things to trigger folks and make them feel angry or fake angry, and they just get in this whole thing. And it's like, oh, they feel disrespected. But hey, if you just give somebody that respect that we all truly deserve, then you're not going to really make anybody angry because you acknowledge them for being alive and being who they are, and so many people need it. And I definitely just love the fact that you decided to put this book out there because it's something that's really not talked about, to be honest, when I think about it, because I guess folks kind of assume it's something we all should do, but I guess folks don't really think about it.
yeah, I agree with you. And the thing is, we were so separate, and yet we all want the same thing. I mean, as soon as you sort of step back and look at that, I want to feel valuable. You want to feel valuable. I don't need to make you feel less valuable for me to be valuable. We really don't need to do that anymore. We don't have these limited resources. We need better distribution of our resources, no question. But they're not limited resources. So how do we use this as a platform simply to make the world better? How's that for a simple thing? Just simply, let's just make the world better. Somebody said, your last name is Shrand, right? I said, yeah, I get Shrandiose. But, it's yeah, it's bad. Bad. Yeah. But really, it's a big lift. It really is. But I know we can do it. I mean, when you just step back and you think, what does that family want? What does that person want? Damn, it's the same thing I want. But that doesn't mean they can't have it. Whenever you remind someone of their value, you increase your value. People want to be around people who make them feel good. So let me just go back a little bit to why this value thing is so important, okay? Millions of years ago, we weren't the biggest animal, we weren't the fastest, we weren't the strongest. We were these isolated animals, these little mammals scurrying around, hoping not to be lunch. We would prey, but then we formed these small social groups, a little group of people. And our survival potential increased so dramatically that humans are everywhere. But to access the protection of that group, you have to contribute to that group. You have to have value. So when a person perceives through that IC domain that they are seen as less valuable, it activates that ancient limbic brain, the irrational brain, the survival brain in the moment. That's why one of my phrases is, keep it frontal, don't go limbic. Right? Let's just keep it frontal. You're not, and the I am is saying, even that worry that you are less valuable, that's the best you can do right then. You are valuable. You are not broken. No one is broken. Look, think about the biological domain for a moment. We're a collection of cells, right? A heart cell doesn't wake up one morning and say, today I'm only going to beat half as much. But that heart cell will beat half as much if something in the home domain of the heart, called the sinoatrial node, which is responsible for the conduction, has been injured. Its IM has changed. If something in the social domain of the heart, the rest of the body, maybe it's getting filled with cholesterol. If the IC domain of that heart cell, maybe it's being seen as something like an immune response needs to happen. And the internal biological domain of that cell, it's protein synthesis, it's DNA. You change the environment of that cell, you change its response. Nothing is broken. When I add a medication, all my patient teachers learn the IM. I call them patient teachers because they teach me so much. Plus, they're very patient with me. But they all learn the IM. And they know that whenever we add a medicine, all we're doing is making a small change in the biological domain. Small changes can have big effects. Nothing's broken. Nobody needs to be helped. That's self-help. You are doing the best you can, but if you don't like it, you can change it. Here's your roadmap. What small change do you need to make in the home domain, the social domain, the IC domain, the biological domain, so you feel more successful? And then you go to your next level of success. And ideally, you begin to recognize that it is much more important to be reflective and reflexive. We're okay. It's okay.
Woohoo! That's right, D. Dr. Joe, the J and Jewel. That's right. Man's dropping jewels, baby. That's right, D. Jules Joe, baby. Dropping them like the jewelry store, baby. That's right, D. Because it's so powerful, and so glad that you mentioned that. Because I mean, like, with everything, like a lot of folks, especially, I guess in the entrepreneurial space, to be like, hey, you want to add value to your folks, want to add value to your listeners. Like sometimes I get that as a pitch. It's like, okay, folks are already valuable already.
Let's
get that part right.
Let's get that right. Exactly right.
It's like, hey, what tips or tools can you help them to really unleash the value at a higher level? That's the main thing, because folks already have the value.
Yeah. And how do you help them recognize that? And remind them that even if you don't recognize it, okay, so that's your I am. Right? What's going on with that? What is happening that the best you can do is put yourself down? Fascinating. Where'd that come from? Oh, it's an I am. All right. Let's look at it again. Let's respect it.
There we go. That's right. Respect it. Go frontal.
That's right. That's right. Keep it frontal. Keep it frontal. Don't go limbic. That's right.
Oh man. So my goodness, so since you've been on a bunch of these podcasts and you even have a wonderful radio show of your own, is there a question that you wish you would be asked more often?
Huh. The question I wish I would be asked is a reverse question. I wish somebody would say to me, why don't you ask me what you think about the I am? Not what I think about the I am, but say, so Dom, what do you think about the I am approach? And I would ask that. So that's a question. It's sort of reversing it because I have to be sure that this isn't just a lot of baloney. Remember, imposter syndrome begins with I am. It's a I am imposter. Okay. But I think, question, I really want people to ask themselves, why do I do what I do? Who am I? Why am I doing these things? Where did this come from? Where did the I am come from? I told you the story, but part of it had to do, like I said, was growing up where there was not much respect between my parents. They loved me, I knew that. But I recognized right away, you know, you don't need to be this angry. You can be if you want to, but how sad. Now, that's the question that I want to be asked. What do other people think about the I am?
Hey, well, I like the fact that it's a simple little wheel with four quarters.
Yeah, that's right. It really is. So, Dom, let me ask you. Really, I know it's your podcast, right? And if you were, hopefully you'll come on mine. But what do you think about this? Does it make sense?
Personally, it makes perfect sense. Not only in my own life, but like from hearing others' stories and the fact that, hey, like a lot of stuff really starts right at home. Like if your home life is not where you feel like it needs to be, it's going to show up in your professional life, in your public life, and it's just a given. And with the whole respect thing, like it's so true, to really resonates with me because I could just think back just to grade school fights, getting in certain fights with certain folks. It all just started from a place of really disrespect and also some miscommunication, but more on the disrespect side, not the miscommunication side. And it's just really just that foundational thing. And heck, even as I was going through the book this past week, it even resonated with one of my life mantras: advance others to advance yourself. Because if you want to help others to advance, you really have to really have that base level of automatic respect for your fellow human being. And I resonate highly with that. So I love it, actually. Like unleashing the power of respect. It's so simple. Like, hey, Aretha Franklin got it right. My man's got the book.
That's right. Exactly right. Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. There's a biological component to it as well. There's this neurohormone of pleasure called oxytocin, not oxycontin. It is basically the neurohormone of trust. And when we respect and value someone, it increases this chemical in their brain. How cool is that? You've changed the environment of someone's brain simply by treating them with respect and value. And this oxytocin thing is a powerful healing chemical. Right now, we have a world full of stress. Stress is based on another neurochemical called cortisol. And what's interesting is cortisol can interfere with oxytocin. Cortisol also interferes with a chemical called dopamine. All drugs and alcohol force the brain to make dopamine. So under stress conditions, it's hard to feel pleasure. It's hard to trust anyone. Boy, doesn't that sound like our world right now?
Yeah.
And
Huge.
then along comes this simple social tool, a behavior that we have evolved over millions of years. Respect. Mind blowing. And think about this. Think about, what does a social animal really mean? Audience, just think about for a moment. If you stood back to back with someone and you ask the person, what do you see right in front of you? They'll tell you something that you can't see. But together, you literally have each other's backs. Together, you can see all around you. We must have each other's backs to really see what's happening in the world. We can't just keep stabbing each other in the back. So, I'm really having fun, Tom. Thanks so much. Go ahead.
Hey, it's definitely fun on the bun, and with that visual reminded me of funny enough, one of our, I guess, more recent guests at the time of this recording, Dr. Debbie Silber. She's actually expert on betrayal.
Wow.
So it's like, all right, we got a little balance here. So it's like, all right, so the post-betrayal syndrome, and now it's like, okay, now unleashing the power of respect. It's like, hey, respect people, y'all. That's right. After the betrayal or before the betrayal, depending on the situation. Oh my goodness, my goodness. Well, speaking of fun, a fun question I've been loving to ask guests, and that is, if your wonderful book, Unleashing the Power of Respect, was a food, what would it be and why?
I think my book would be water. Because we are all composed of a lot of water. Nobody is allergic to water. We need water. We need it to grow our crops, whether you're a vegetarian or a vegan or pescatarian or eat meat. Water is part of what binds us together. It's fluid, and yet it can also become ice. It can chill, it can kill, and it can heal. So I would like to think of unleashing the power of respect as water, something that we can all use, something we all need, and yet it's so simple. No, water.
Woo! Is your middle initial P? Because that was profound, my friend.
Thank you.
You're actually the first one to actually call the book water.
Really? Really? Well,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool too. So I'm unique, just like everyone else.
That's right. It's so true. So true indeed, and so powerful indeed. Because it can chill, and it can kill. But hey, it heals too. So hey, be like
right.
water.
That's right. It's water. We all need it.
Yes, indeed. Well, all right. Then we're coming down to the magical question. Actually, before that, I forgot to ask this one earlier. So my goodness. So in this wonderful land of, well, disrespect and really helping folks now to really get back to respecting their fellow humans, intuition is probably also involved in certain areas, and it seems like you have this high level of intuition. So any advice for those looking to develop their intuition as they go through this journey of life?
Yeah. Trust yourself. Like I said earlier, intuition is a precursor to technique. If you have an intuition, it means something. Now, it doesn't always mean you're right, which is okay. That's still an I am. But one of the things that I teach my students is, if you have a feeling about someone else, very often it may be that other person's feeling that you're picking up on. We have these remarkable things in our brains called mirror neurons, where we mirror other people's feelings. So trust your intuition, but step back and look again at it. Because if you think someone is angry, it doesn't mean you have to get angry. You can activate their mirror neurons by treating them with respect and diffuse their anger. So trust yourselves. Remember, how do you get to trust? By valuing yourself and respecting yourself. Respect leads to value, and value leads to trust. And with trust is the antidote to the anger, fear, and sadness that we experience. because you can make a mistake and know that someone will not judge you as less than, less valuable, and kick you out of your protective group. That's my advice. Also buy the book. I mean, I think that'd be good too. You know?
Don't worry, don't just buy this one. Buy all 4 of them.
Right, exactly. Buy all 5 of them. I got 5 of them. This is my 5th one. But just get, again. It's not the money. It's the message. You know, get one, share it with people, read the stories. The stories are taking people who've been cold, sick, and broken. Look, we use this word disorder. As soon as you use the word disorder, you separate people into groups. This group is okay, that group isn't. You've got bipolar disorder. You've got attention deficit disorder. You've got obsessive compulsive disorder. You've got substance use. Disorder? No, it's a condition. If you don't like it, you can change it. But the words we use are so powerful. Disorder. So just take the responsibility. You're okay. Remind yourself of your value. Remind other people of their value. It is a big ask sometimes, and yet it is the simplest thing. It is water.
Woohoo! That's what I'm talking about. It's water indeed, y'all. That's right, indeed. It's water indeed. That's why corn is so plentiful on this podcast. It's a plentiful crop for us.
I appreciate the corn, man. We could go that route for a long time. I mean, there is a kernel of truth to that corn, you know. And folks, we're saying corn, not porn. It's corn. Okay, corn. Okay.
Oh man, yes indeed, yes indeed. Well, heck, this probably could be even freaking 2-hour podcast because the man even alluded to that might have been chapter 8 or 7. I even read it yesterday. I believe it was the chapter with the girl who had who was actually filed as borderline.
Yeah. And the 2 gifts. The 2 gifts. Yeah, right. Borderline. Oh. We can talk about that when we'll do another show on that. People have been so dismissed.
Exactly.
Anyway.
Yeah. But yeah. Well, anyways, back to the magical question that every guest gets to receive. So that is, if you're to wake up tomorrow and you're 25 again, but you're in 2022 with all of your knowledge and experience, what advice would you give to yourself?
I have pondered the answer to this because I speak with a lot of 25-year-olds as well. And I give them the advice, you know, intuition is a precursor to technique. Never worry alone, you know, trust yourself. But honestly, I think what I would say to myself is don't think that your metabolic rate will stay the same as you get older. because there was that phrase, a mind is a terrible thing to waste. Remember that phrase? I knew that phrase when I was 25. Now I find my waste is a terrible thing to mind. So so that's probably what I would say to myself is, you know, man, don't take this for granted, okay? You know, you're not going to look this way forever. You could. I wish I'd said that to myself because I could go back in time and, you know, I mean, you know, a lot of people have 6-packs, right? I have a keg, okay? It's like what the heck is this? You know, somebody said to me, they said, Dr. Shrand, you're doing all these things, you stretch so thin. And I said, yeah, and I'm still overweight. What is that? Okay. So that's probably the advice that I would give to myself. Because look, when I was 25, I'd already created the I Am. I'd won 2 Emmy Awards for this TV show. I'd met the woman that eventually I would wind up marrying. I mean, I was doing pre-med. I believed that I was on a path but I never knew that I shouldn't eat that other burger. So what I would say is believe. It sounds so corny, but you are not a fraud. You are not a fraud. You may be afraid, but you are not a fraud. So that's what I would say. I was told that I would never be a doctor because I failed organic chemistry. And that was at Columbia. And I left Columbia. I went to Harvard, finished my pre-med. And now I'm honored to work with people in their time of need. I am totally honored, to have that opportunity. It's about respect. And I truly am honored that you have invited me to talk with you and with your listeners. Thank you.
Hey, well, it's an honor to have you on, man. Like, my goodness, like, this has been hotter than fish grease. Indeed, that's right, indeed. But can't add too much to fish grease, because if I'm not mistaken, what was it? A waste is a terrible thing to mind, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, that COVID-19. Yeah, them pounds. Let me stop. That's what it really was.
I mean, talk about small changes having big effects. What could be smaller than a virus? You can think of that. So.
Yeah. Hopefully, that darn virus is on permanent hibernation eventually. Yep. But folks don't need to hibernate on what my man Dr. Joe is doing. So for those who need to stay awoke by copping all the wonderful wares that you have and keeping up with your radio show and all the things that you're doing, what's the best way for folks to do so?
So there's a website, drshrand.com. That's DRSHRAND.com. There's no C in that. When we crossed the ocean, we left the C behind. So it's DRSHRAND.com. You can get any of my books on Amazon as well. You can go watch the Dr. Joe Show. It's a podcast. Make sure you put in the I am approach, or else you may get a show on cigars. There's a guy who does a great show on cigars who's also Dr. Joe. That is not my show. So put in the Dr. Joe Show, the I am approach. You can watch the podcast. Check out Drug Story Theater. We didn't get a chance to talk about that, but Drug Story Theater is something that people may be really interested in as well. But that's it. drshrand.com is simply the easiest way to do it.
Well, there you have it, folks. Going to definitely put links to those in the wonderful show notes, indeed, especially the Drug Story Theory, if I'm not mistaken.
Drug Story Theater. That's theater with an ER, because so many of our kids wind up there. But that's for another show.
Alrighty. There you go. We'll definitely have to check that out too. That's right, indeed. Check it out like all the library books, indeed. It's definitely going to be good stuff, indeed. So check it out, folks. So any parting words before we close up shop, Doctor?
Other than thanking you, I just do want to remind people that we are at an evolutionary cusp right now. We have a choice. We can continue to do what we've done for a long time, and we will destroy ourselves. Or we can do something different. We can truly keep it frontal, not go limbic. We can remind each other of our value. We all want the same thing. Do that today. See what small change you can make. Decide what influence you want to be. And be it.
Thanks a bunch for tuning in and setting aside some of your time to listen to this wonderful podcast, Going North. If you really enjoyed what you heard, do me a solid and share this with your network and someone that you care about that would get something out of it too. And be sure to subscribe to hear more, and heck, even check out the backlog if you would like, because there are hundreds of episodes to choose from, and they just keep getting better and not butter.